This is the Kranji waterfront today. Peaceful and docile, it has been here since before Singapore existed as a nation and has many stories to tell. On the 8th of December 1942, General Yamashita Tomoyuki of the Imperial Japanese Army landed his first troops on the Malayan Peninsula. With the final objective of taking the British stronghold of Singapore, Yamashita cut through the western side of the peninsula along with any resistance along the way, like a hot knife through butter. With the use of bicycles and advanced technology, the Japanese outfought and outsmarted the Allied forces, making short work of their defence and ultimately capturing the entire peninsula by the 31st of January 1942. On the other side of the war table sat General Officer Commanding Arthur Percival, who was tasked with defending Singapore. After the Malayan defence campaign, Percival's forces were weak and of low morale. He now faced the daunting task of defending more than 70 kilometres of Singaporean coastline, all without a single clue of Yamashita's next move. With the northeastern shores of Singapore generally open and easy to access, Percival foresaw that this was the location where Yamashita's troops were likely to land. But Yamashita was one step ahead of him. Sending a small party of only 400 troops, Yamashita feinted an operation of Pulau Ubin, luring Percival to thinking that the Japanese had started their assault from the northeast, as he had predicted. With this, Percival ordered the move of precious supplies of food and ammunition here from the northwestern coast, just as Yamashita had wanted. The northwestern coast, tangled with swamps and mangroves, made any sort of landing difficult, but this was all according to plan, and this is where the British would least expect the Japanese. On the 8th of February 1942, Yamashita sent the main bulk of his forces, with covering fire provided by his artillery, onto the beaches of Suriname. The Allied forces were disorientated, and there was no hope of launching any counterattack. The beaches of Suriname were lost. But this wasn't enough for the Japanese general. A second beach was needed in order to facilitate the complete capture of Singapore. Kranji was of tactical importance, as it would be essential in order to punch through the Jurong-Kranji defence line. This would allow them to reconstruct the broken causeway, allowing for logistics and supply to come through. It was key to capturing the rest of Singapore. The Japanese Imperial Guard Division, headed by Japanese Major General Nishimura Takuma, landed at the beaches of Kranji on the 9th of February 1942. Their main assault was about to appear between the mouths of Sungai's Mandai and Kranji. Other landings were made in swamps along the frontage, and some Japanese went up to Sungai Mandai and the Sungai Mandai Kecil. Here, the Japanese encountered heavy resistance and were soon engaged in hand-to-hand combat with the Allied forces. Then, at 4:30 a.m., about 2 million gallons of petrol went up in flames and was leaked into the Sungai Mandai. The surrounding areas were lit vividly, and the Japanese who had infiltrated through these rivers were burnt alive. The Japanese suffered their most heavy loss of the campaign here. Still, they persisted and succeeded in pushing the Allied troops back to Kampong Kranji. Eventually, all Allied troops withdrew to the Jurong-Kranji defence line. This defence was to hold out against invasions from the Japanese from the northwest. However, defence troops were mistakenly withdrawn, leaving a gaping hole in the defence line. With this hole, a chain reaction started, which resulted in the premature full withdrawal to the final defence line of Singapore City. The Jurong-Kranji defence line was fully abandoned on the 11th of February 1942. 4 days later, the British Allied forces marched solemnly and conceded defeat on the 15th of February 1942. The Sungai Mandai today flows peacefully, with the people who pass it unaware of the horrors that were committed in it and on its banks during the Japanese invasion. It is but a symbol of the price of peace and the sacrifices that have to be made in order to gain it. The Kranji waterfront today may look bashed and battered, but it is a place with rich history. On this very piece of land 70 years ago, a war was fought and lives were sacrificed, so that we may live ours to the fullest today.